It's the Old Doctor Who Show, episode number 55, The Twin Dilemma.
Go forward in all your beliefs and prove to me that I am not mistaken in mine. You couldn't control my mind before, and you certainly can't control it now.
Would you like a jelly, Toby?
The TARDIS, when working properly, is capable of many amazing things.
Reverse the polarity of the neutron flows, and the TARDIS would be free of the force field.
Well, the TARDIS is more than a machine, Stephen. It's like a person, you see.
The resulting reaction, describe it. Are you ready?
Welcome back to the Old Doctor Who Show, your tri-weekly classic Doctor Who review podcast. My name is Eric. You are.
I'm Dan, but
we gotta work on that whole thing. I hate the
other host.
My name is, and your name is.
Well, you know, we've only done this 54 times before now. Eventually, we're gonna get this right.
This is our 55th podcast,
Review.
and because we do it every 3 weeks, I was looking over spoilers for what we're gonna cover. Like, how many Colin Baker episodes are we doing? Oh, that's quite a lot. And then I'm thinking every 3 weeks, it's like, we're going to be with Colin Baker for almost a year.
Oh, good.
Before that finally turns into some
you
Sylvester
had told
McCoy. It's going to be a long ride with Colin Baker.
You told me that we have on our schedule every Colin Baker story?
Every Colin Baker story on BritBox. And I believe we're missing... I'm sure there's a Dalek one, because for whatever reason, it seems like BritBox does not have the rights to use the Daleks, because every time we get to a Dalek story, it's like not available. I don't know why that is. I don't know what's behind that, but that's why we had to we almost cut Resurrection of the Daleks, and then we had to find it on the DVD, and it was like a big...
Oh, that's interesting. I hadn't actually put that together, that it happens to be the most popular enemy story. We're going to get into it when we do the review here, but... I have feelings about the fact that we're going to be doing Colin Baker for a year.
Well, don't say anything.
I'm just saying I have feelings. They could be good feelings.
They
could be
to
bad feelings.
Until we get to it.
Do you have anything you want to talk about at the top of the show?
Yeah, I got to plug a dumb Kickstarter I have. So as you know, if you're listening to this podcast, you know that I write comic books, and I have a comic book. The first comic book I ever did was called Dead Horse. We're paid.
Wait, that was the first comic you ever did?
That was the first comic I ever did.
Oh, wow. You've been doing this for, you have a lot of
it's been
titles.
It's been going on forever, that book. We're trying to color the next book, so I would encourage you, if you like The Cut of My Jib, because it's more of a comedy-type comic, that to go to deadhorsecomic.com/Kickstarter. And you can watch the video and see if you like it. If you could back it and throw a couple bucks our way for a copy of an issue, that would be great. If you want to see what it's like, just message me. You can send an email to theolddoctorwhoshow@gmail.com, and I can send you the first issue for free as a PDF or whatever if you want to check it out first. But that's it. I don't want to plug too much, but we're in the middle of the Kickstarter.
That's great. It's going well, right? You sent out an update that you're it
got to like 82%. And then just sort of is dead. Well, not dead. We were getting like a couple of pledges. Sometimes people are canceling pledges, so it was like it went really quick just to the finish line. It was like, we're just gonna make you sweat for the next
nice. Days. Well, everyone that's listening here, hopefully can help you get over that finish line.
Yeah, we're at 85%, I think. So
that's fantastic.
It's close. It's close. And with Kickstarters, this is my second Kickstarter. It's usually like very busy in the beginning and very busy at the end and very dead in the middle. So it's matching the usual thing.
It's kind of like life.
It is like life. Okay. Although, is it really that busy at the end? It's mostly like figuring out when you're going to eat. Did I take that pill? And did I always have that growth there? Those are like
this main occupation.
Yeah, but anyway, who cares about that? Let's talk about twins. Let's talk about the dilemma that twins bring. And let's talk about the new Doctor, Colin Baker.
Yeah, let's do all that.
So hit the button and let's just jump into this madness.
Did you have to be so rude?
To whom?
Hugo. You could at least have said goodbye. Are you having another of your fits?
You may not believe this, but I have fully stabilized.
Then I suggest you take a crash course in manners.
You seem to forget, Perry. I'm not only from another culture, but another planet. I am, in your terms, an alien. I am therefore bound to have different values and customs.
Your former self was polite enough.
There was such a cost. I was on the verge of becoming neurotic.
We all have to repress our feelings from time to time. I suggest you get back into the habit.
And I would suggest, Perry, that you wait a little before criticizing my new persona. You may well find it isn't quite as disagreeable as you think.
Well, I hope so.
Whatever else happens, I am the Doctor. Whether you like it or not.
This is The Twin Dilemma, premiering in March of 1984. A pair of genius mathlete twins are kidnapped by an old man, taken to an asteroid safe house full of bird people in order to help a race of slug people blow up a sun and spread slug seeds across the universe. Meanwhile, Perry and a new sixth Doctor have a competition to see who can come up with the worst outfit, and Dan and Eric reconsider their life choices that brought them to the Colin Baker years.
Yeah, that pretty much covers it. That covers the story and my feelings going into the story.
I think we're pretty much done. That's all. So this was written by Anthony Stephen, directed by Peter Moffat, and of course JNT produced it. Eric, what'd you think about The Twin Dilemma?
Well, I think it sucks. It's not very
hot
good.
Take.
Big surprise.
Hot
this is often
take.
voted the worst story in Doctor Who history. I think it earns it in a number of ways. It was not as terrible as I thought it was going to be. And I was fully prepared for it to be completely terrible. That's not to say it's good.
I hear you.
It's not to say that I don't have a whole list of things that are just pretty dumb and all over the place about it. But I already had expectations going into it. So I was like, all right, show me the worst Doctor Who. And it was like, all right, well, it was not horrible.
Well,
it is. But the director is Peter Moffat, who we've seen many times before. But I felt the direction on this was so bad. That I was surprised. I thought it was going to be someone that we had not seen before or someone that had done another bad episode. But I can't remember offhand the ones he did.
Visitation, Modern Undead, which was its own thing. But it was not, the direction was not really the main problem with that. 5 Doctors he did. I mean, State of Decay. The writer, however, as far as I can tell, this is the only Doctor Who story Anthony Stephen has done.
The last one.
Right. I mean, according to the wiki, he was a British TV writer for a long time, but and he kept writing after this somehow. But yeah, holy. So yeah, I agree. The story itself. Let's set aside sorry, Davison. Let's set aside Baker for a second. And just the story had so many problems. First off, what was the dilemma?
All right, well, I had that in my notes. Basically, they took the word twins, because there's twins in it, and they took the word the dilemma, and they just stuck them together. Like,
what was the dilemma? Like, what was that? Well, I could either do this thing or this thing, and they're both equally... That's a dilemma.
Right.
Like, no.
There was not that.
There was no dilemma.
There was a problem.
Sure.
I guess, and twins were in it, because they were so good at mathematical, Atari 400 character things or whatever.
Pixel art. They were mathematic pixel art.
From the title on, it was rough.
It was
actually, even to start before the show, so we see new opening credits, which I thought were terrible.
So it was all so much rainbow.
The weird rainbow prism, and then they do this thing where the Doctor, Colin Baker's serious face, and then it changes to smile.
And then it comes into a smile, yeah.
Which I guess for them, and I have not read this, so I'm just thinking that's okay. They're going to have a really hard, unlikable Doctor that's going to become a likable Doctor.
I don't think they know at this point what they're going to do. Maybe
opening, because that's got to be what they're doing. I mean, we're not supposed to talk about Colin Baker, but it's hard not to talk about this episode without talking.
No,
about
we
Colin
can.
Baker.
I just wanted to say, even without him, this is a rough story.
I mean, we get into the story parts later, which makes no sense. Where they're having the planet. There's sort of 3 planets, and then the way they're going to make the other two planets habitable is by moving them into the same orbit as the original planet,
Right.
but they're going to be phased one day apart.
Which doesn't make any sense because they're
at
still
all.
there.
At first I was like, okay, they're going to turn them into moons or something, and they're going to orbit that planet.
That's what I thought at first.
And then
too.
I was like, okay, well, how do they figure that? Because the planets would crash into each other because of
right.
the size. But
We just have to get the right orbit just so that they don't mess with it. We could, yeah, you
and then
could.
the whole
That's
problem
fine.
with that is because the planets are going to be, they're smaller in size, so it's going to throw off the balance of.
I mean, they've talked about in other stories like having
Mm.
something slightly out of phase in time, and that's why you can't. It doesn't. They don't. The timelines don't interfere with each other. It's a thing they've used before, but it just didn't seem to work in this sense.
If
at
they were
all
in different
for some reason.
dimensions and occupying the same
anything.
space or something,
Ugh.
but they said they're a day apart. It's like, all right, well, what happens the next day? Where does the other planet go?
Right.
But in any case, yeah, you're right. I mean, the story has a ton of problems. Characters all have a lot of problems. I don't understand why the big bad slug monster decides he's going to take over the Doctor's body. Was there a reason for that? Other than he was like, I'm just going to take over your body.
Because I can do it.
And then he's like, no, you can't. I'm tough. He's like, oh, yeah, I'll show you I can do it by wasting my energy on the old guy. Why not just take the Doctor over at that point?
Right.
It doesn't make any... Like, there's tons of that stuff, and the twins playing... Like, from the opening, you get them playing, like, that weird pyramid chess, and then the dad comes in, and he looks like,
stupid,
like
that
a middle
chess set.
management dad who's just tired from working, and he's like, oh, my weirdo sons.
And where was their mom?
Why does everybody in Doctor Who have great math skills? It seems like math skills from Adric to Nyssa to these two. It's like... That's the most coveted position, I think, I guess, in England at the time, was whether or not you were good at math. And if you were great math work, it's just so weird.
Yeah, I mean, it was almost along the lines of, like, I thought they were going to come up, bring up, like, block transfer computations again. I really thought that's where they were going with it, because that's their favorite thing with math.
They may have, because a couple of times my eyes glazed over while I was watching it. So
I don't think they
were saying that.
Maybe. So, okay. So we have started hating it from the beginning with the horrible titles, because that's pretty bad. Oh, and the logo is more roundy, and so it's just like it's so 80s. I don't know. It's just so like colorful and round, and it's just gross. I don't like the logo. I didn't like the title designs. I don't like his stupid face.
It feels very cheap, and this story feels very cheap. And I don't care about sets wobbling and stuff, but I was much more conscious of that happening. There's times when they hit things and the whole thing just shakes, and it looks like everything is just... At one point, they're in... I don't even remember where they are. They're in, like, the spaceship, and I could have swore there's, like, exercise equipment in the back that's just been covered in tinfoil. It's like, is that a treadmill that they tried to make look like some kind of science space thing? And...
Right, they had to film part of it in Peter Moffat's rec room.
I think that's probably what happened.
It was a lot of aluminum foil on top of everything. That was pretty much the whole production design from the outset. Just buy as much aluminum foil as possible and put it on everything. And it was just kind of crinkled on. It wasn't even applied well. It just looked horrible.
Yeah, it looked bad.
In every place. Just, we'll wrap this podium up with tinfoil. Well, that was gross.
And that stuff too, like... Am I just more hyper aware of that because the appearance of Colin Baker from the last story that we did, where he says you're expecting someone else and he's got that awful look, to this is so unlikable that I was already sort of on edge. I'm like, I don't even like this guy. He attacks Perry. Violently.
Okay, so why don't we let's just get into Colin.
We got to deal with
from the
him.
beginning.
So we've got, I mean, obviously he's a walking contradiction because everything he says, nothing makes sense. He makes a point of saying outward appearances aren't important, and yet he does everything he can to call attention to his outward appearance by wearing the worst possible jacket, looking at himself in the mirror and being like,
and talking about
so
his features.
Wonderful. Like, oh, look at this, and this is the greatest thing. So it's like, everything he says. He yells at Perry at one point for not having compassion for a fellow human, and then 5 minutes later, he has no idea what compassion is, and he can't understand it, and that's what separates humans from time. Like, every moment is this contradiction of who is this? And then eventually, I didn't care about the Doctor. I was like, I don't even want to spend any time with him.
Yeah.
He's not interesting. He's annoying.
So how do you compare this to previous regenerations where we've seen the Doctor in the regeneration usually in that first episode of the first story, slightly off kilter, and you know that he's going to settle in at some point, and that's that's a function of the regeneration in the story, but it's also a function of the actor and writers kind of figuring out this version of the Doctor. But so how does, knowing that first appearance of the new Doctor can be a little bit strange, how do you rate this one against other ones? I personally just found him completely unlikable from the outset, and it only got worse.
Yeah, and I would say I appreciate the commitment to this idea that we're going to have an unlikable, dangerous, sort of volatile Doctor. And then we're slowly going to make you realize that deep down, he's a nice person.
Dangerous in what way? Like,
we tried to kill Perry.
Right.
Yeah,
No,
like,
and I agree. Like, dangerous is fine in one way. Dangerous, like Davison or even Baker, like Tom Baker, will just run into danger. Like, whatever's gonna happen. Like Davison kind of had a much more nonchalant, like, let's just see what happens, and goes off into danger. Like, that's one thing. To be dangerous to one's companions, like by physically choking and suspecting Perry of being some sort of spy and being paranoid. No, that's not fun.
And
that's not fun.
Yeah, I don't know about you, but
it doesn't have to be.
Right. I was gonna say I could not tell when he was normal. So he goes through this thing where he's evil and he tries to choke her, and then
suspicious.
He sees his reflection, and he realizes, "Oh my God, I'm doing something terrible." And his solution to that is just as evil, which is to kidnap this woman, Perry, force her to be his servant as he lives as a hermit on some asteroid. Doesn't ask her if she wants to go. She's like, "I don't want to do it." He's like, tough. So it's like, okay, well, he just
You've been chosen.
Yeah, he went from being horrible to
in
being
one
horrible
way.
in a different way.
Yep.
And then as the 4 episodes go on, at what point I was like, well, where's the real Doctor? Do we ever see the real Doctor? And even at the end, we are jumping all the way to the end, when Colin Baker just looks at the camera pretty much and is like, I am the Doctor whether you like it or not. And it's like this was a challenge personally to us that we got to sit through all of these dumb stories for the next year. I was like, well, he's right about that, but it's not fun. And like maybe the next story, that's the real Doctor. But from this one, I at any point you could pick, he didn't seem to be improving, and no time was any of those incarnations of him enjoyable to be around. No,
in fact, beyond being almost killed by the Doctor, Perry just didn't like him at all throughout. Like, I can't. It must be so hard for this companion. It's always interesting to see how a companion deals with the regeneration, and as they kind of figure out, okay, this is the person that I used to know, but they have a different personality, but they're still kind of the same person, and they grow to love him. She's being terrified by this guy. Like you said, she's been strangled. She is being kidnapped and into servitude on a barren asteroid. Even as the adventure continues and he comes to try to save her life, whatever, she doesn't seem to like him at all. And then at the end, like that point when he says, "I'm the Doctor whether you like it or not," and like right into camera, Perry's in the background and kind of smiles.
Yeah, she's
and
like, "Oh, you."
Yeah,
why would you want to spend any time? I would be like, immediately take me home.
Take me home. There's no reason she needs to be there. Just take me home.
She hasn't been hanging around the Doctor that long anyway.
Right. So you don't even get that. I'm gonna stick with him because I owe it to him. We've had all these adventures together. I know him. I'm gonna see him through this. No, there doesn't feel like there's any of that.
Right. I like when the Doctor is like, I call it a renewal. I was like, hey, you call it a regeneration. You've always called it a regeneration.
You've always called it a regeneration.
And then he never calls it a renewal again. He starts referring to it as a regeneration later on.
There's something weird about the way that he said that. Renewal. It was a renewal, but not renewed.
There's a cup. Yes, he's like, I've been regenerated, but ungenerated, or something weird.
Just something strange.
One thing I wanted to point out to you, because I
figured but unregenerate. That's it.
You would pick up on it. He does say that something about the regenerations, that each time there's a diminishing effect.
Yes.
What did that mean?
I have no idea, and I didn't see anything about it anywhere, because that obviously did strike me.
So
it says, each
unease gets better with time, because it's not this time. This is the worst we've ever seen it, where he's literally going to kill people.
Okay, so he says each regeneration has with diminishing effect. So what is the diminishing effect? It clearly can't be that he thinks he's not as capable a being, because he thinks he's incredibly handsome, and he thinks he's so. He even references his previous incarnation, the Fifth Doctor, about being too polite, and this one, he's going to be more forthright.
Peter Davison was sweet. I was like, well, was he?
Yeah, well, no, right. In comparison, I mean, right. Yes.
Poor Tegan is, who gets a shout out in this, by the way.
She does get, this was actually really nice. But so I'm just trying to think, like, what diminishing effect is he talking about? He thinks he's more handsome. He thinks he's smarter. He thinks he's just better overall because he's not so sweet and hung up on like the sentimentality that he saw the previous Doctor. So I don't know what he means by that. It's a diminishing effect, and it never comes up again in the rest of the story.
I don't know either. And we also
he doesn't make reference to the fact that he is clearly psychotic for a part of this, where he thinks that Perry is a spy that wants to get him somehow. But maybe that's the diminishing effect, but he doesn't really make reference to it. Like, this is definitely the worst.
I didn't know what that was.
It was a weird line to throw in there.
It's kind of interesting that line is in there, though, because we do see what happens to a Time Lord who's out of regenerations and tries to regenerate, which is like a form of Time Lord suicide, which we have happened at the end with that old dude whose name escapes me.
Well, okay, what do you mean by that? Because I didn't see that as being anything other than he just died.
Well, I took it as he was out of regenerations.
Yes.
The super bad dude, what's his name? Throw it at
Mestor.
me. Mestor, whatever, is inside of him.
Right.
And then he forces his own sort of regeneration, and the Doctor's like, you can't regenerate, what are you doing? And then he dies as a result of that because
expelling Mestor.
Yeah, there's nothing to go back into. And when he was dead, then the guy had nowhere to go, and he floated up in that wonderful effect.
Yeah.
I took it that was that.
Yeah, that's fine. Sure. Yeah, Mestor couldn't hold on to him anymore, and he died.
But my point being, like, there's lots of talk about regenerations and what it means and all that stuff in this. So that diminishing effect line, what did they mean by that?
I don't know what they meant by that. And they do make a reference, the Doctor talking to this other Time Lord, which we haven't really gotten to yet, but Professor Edgeworth or Asmail, he says to him that you've used up your allotted regenerations. Yeah. Again, with that idea of, like, they are provided a certain number of regenerations.
Question for you: did you do any research on that other guy? Because he says, "I saw you the last time I saw you, I regenerated twice."
Yes.
So now, was he in a previous Pertwee story that we didn't see, or this is he just appears here for the first time?
Oh, you're right. That would have been. In my head, it was Baker.
No, he would have been the transformation to Baker, transformation to Peter Davison, and now he's Baker, right?
So that'd be 3. I thought it was
maybe
2
you're right. Whatever the counting is, but
no,
was he
regardless.
Was he?
Regardless, no, he is
so
this. And I was reading the production notes about this, and apparently they were actually planning on bringing in a different character, but he had already appeared before. So this is just a new character that was just written for this. Right. One of the first Time Lord characters that we've seen that doesn't have some sort of noun name. Like, there's the Doctor, the Master, the Chancellor, whatever, but this one just has Asmail.
Right. Well, we had Rassilon. That's just
that's true.
For that. It's not the Rassilon, but that's what he hung out and makes people call him. You will call me the Rassilon from now.
All right, that was a stupid point. Then I'm totally wrong.
I like this scene of the Doctor, Colin Baker, when he's shopping for clothes, and he looks like he's covered in his own sick. And he looks like a crazy person in a thrift store, like looking through.
And he falls into the rack of clothing and has a soliloquy that's just has no point.
He does a lot of those, like, soliloquies. Even before he attacks Perry, he's calling her the fairy, and he's reading that poem, and then he goes into it. I think there's a couple times he does a Longfellow quote.
Yeah.
At one point, because she's an American. It's all over the place, and I guess we're gonna have from now on a lapel thing. Because where we had
celery before,
now we have a cat of some kind.
I prefer the celery to the cat lapel pin. It's just so friggin' ugly. I don't everything
know.
He's wearing is ridiculous. I don't know what they're going for with this. I don't understand why they dress him in a way that is so completely unserious. Which is fine, but that's not the character. It is the exact opposite of the character. The character is pompous in the extreme, smug, condescending, doesn't tend to have any sort of sympathy for anyone else, except when he does for no reason.
Right.
So completely feels unmotivated. And yet this costumes is more something that would be, I think more appropriate for the second Doctor, for instance, who was more of a clown and silly, and had his serious moments where you can kind of play that kind of off of the costume. But like that's
I think
it doesn't seem to make any sense.
I think it's all about this. I'm guessing it's going to be all about the fact that he is nothing but a contradiction, because he doesn't care about clothes, which is why he wears the worst clothes you could have. But then he insults Peri about her clothes, yet he doesn't care about clothes. Which
were terrible as well. They only looked okay because he looked like a freaking nightmare.
Clothes, why does the super cop who crash lands all of a sudden he changes? I really wish that there was at least 40 minutes of him just picking out outfits and trying them on. Because he wanders into that thing for some reason and just shops and ends up on that like silver and purple number.
Yeah.
That's shiny. And then finds the hidden ammo for some reason. He knows that it's hidden there. I guess.
Yeah, I mean,
feigning sleep before when they were talking about it.
It was so dumb that he would find. That's just lazy. Yeah. Well, okay, why does he change? Period. Okay, fine, he changes. Why did he happen to change into the thing that has his ammo in it? That's just dumb.
And that's not even what he's wearing at the end of the show. When you see him, he's got like black suspenders on and a tight T-shirt, right? And he's like, I'll stay here.
No, it made no sense at all. I mean, Peri could have hidden it someplace, and he just happens to find it. But no, it's the one outfit, the most ugly outfit that was left. It was the third ugliest outfit. So he put that on. I don't understand that either.
Yeah, the Doctor's crazy, so that's the thing we got to deal with. He tries to kill her. He's thwarted by a mirror.
Yeah,
I guess. And then we already talked about how mad I was with the hermit line. It's like, send her home. What are you doing?
Why does she have to come with you? I don't even like the mirror thing. He looks in the mirror and sees himself, and I guess his conscience is shocked, and he just, what am I doing? But like, it didn't even seem like Peri was doing that to get him to see it. And even if she did, why would she have thought that would work? Just happened. I don't know. That just
so then
silly.
While all of this is going on, right? So we've got these two genius twins who are just great at doing light bright. Then out of nowhere, an apparition comes that's also physical. So he teleports there somehow. It's this old guy. I forget what name he tricks them under.
He says his name is Professor Edgeworth.
Yeah, he's a real creep. He's like, oh, your parents' home? So then he zaps their minds and erases their memories except for what he needs. And takes them away. At which point the dad shows up like a couple hours later, and he finds some powder on the floor that instantly he knows.
Oh, it must have been an alien transportation.
It's a clear sign of maybe the powder is used to open a portal. I don't even know how the Time Lord got there, to be honest with you.
Unclear. He says that, and then the space police are like, "Oh yeah, that must be the." No, it. God,
we do have the space police. I want to talk just. I loved the woman, the space police woman with the novelty-sized star that she was wearing. It was ridiculously big, and I could have swore there was a horse on it. I don't know if there's a horse on it, but I feel like they took that star from some old Western set. And I was like, is that a horse on that thing? But yeah, so there's the space cops, and there's
a lot of
then the bad guys with their spaceship, and this is where they had couches that were covered in plastic. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
The two twins pass out on it for some reason. That's where
it's easier to clean up the blood, I guess. You just wrap them up in the plastic and just get the blood out of there. It's weird.
Why do they go to the asteroid?
I was going to ask you the same dang thing. So
there's an installation on the asteroid.
The professor materializes on Earth, picks up the twins, takes them to Titan III, which is an asteroid, because they have a safe house there. There's no other life on that asteroid. They have a safe house there. And then from there they actually go to the planet of Jocasta,
where his old planet, which is now
I'm sorry, I just don't care enough to look it up. So Jocasta. Anyway, so your question is why not just go to Jocasta?
Yeah, because that's what his laboratory is.
I have no freaking idea.
His secret laboratory's there, everything he would need.
Because there's a transmat. So they have a transmat from Titan III that can get them to Jocasta, but
they don't. Okay,
so maybe they have to go to Titan III in order to get over to Jocasta, but it doesn't matter because.
But they don't take the transmat, right? Doesn't he sabotage the transmat and says it's it's a randomizer on it? You'll be killed, and they take the ship back.
They get off of. Oh, maybe.
I thought they got in a ship and took off and left them there. Because don't we see them in the ship?
They did leave them there and lock them in yeah.
Yeah, because it's the ship. Remember, it's like a freighter ship, and Space Cop is like,
So then why did they go there?
It just made a jump to light speed, and these ships aren't supposed to go to light speed.
You're right.
So
why did they go there?
I didn't understand. And even the doctor's like, well, think about this. Why did they go to this place? And the space cop's like, oh, maybe because of this. He's like, no, it's more than that. And they never follow up on that.
You're right. It makes absolutely no sense.
There's no reason for it. Continued to be evil. All my notes at this point are like, I can't tell when the doctor is evil or good. Is he always evil?
Oh, I have a progression of notes, a series of notes that are just, I effing hate him. I effing hate him. And I also fucking hate him. Oh, there's one, and there's also one is
casually gives her cancer. Like, remember when they get to the planet and she's like, the radiation levels. He's like, what's a little radiation? It's like, well, you're from Gallifrey. Like, she's going to die now of cancer, you monster.
Yeah.
And the old guy that turns into Slim Goodbody for some reason. So, like, the old Time Lord goes into that machine and then becomes Slim Goodbody. And then becomes
what was that supposed to be? Was that supposed to be a special effect? Like, oh, he's, like, dematerializing, you're seeing his innards, and then it comes back. Is that what it was supposed to be? Because it didn't look like that.
The doctor says that's a thing that disassembles you and reassembles you, and it's quite refreshing. So maybe he's using that to prolong his life because he can't regenerate. I'm guessing.
I think you're reading a lot into it.
But then the doctor somehow messes with that, and doesn't he say this is going to send you back in time 10 seconds?
10 seconds.
Which isn't enough time. They would be in the same room.
Send her back 10 seconds and into the TARDIS. Why the 10 seconds? Just send her to the TARDIS. Right. Why 10 seconds? Why does that matter at all? Just send her to the TARDIS. And then, so he needs to send her back in time 10 seconds into the TARDIS, but then needs her watch so that he can time it so that he arrives at the same time, which I guess would be like 20 seconds late. I don't know.
That scene to me, and I don't know about you, felt like this is where a cliffhanger was maybe supposed to be, which is the doctor, the clock being wrong, and then him not appearing in the TARDIS, and they're like, the doctor's not here. Because it's a dumb scene because...
Well, it is the cliffhanger because it explodes.
Seconds go by, and then he appears.
Yeah,
and it's like in the middle of the episode, so it's like,
and he appears in the wrong spot, and then appears. It doesn't. Dumb. It was just. It didn't make any sense. Oh, we did see Perry's crying face, which is really not flattering. Did you happen to catch?
Yes.
As it explodes.
And I was not big on Perry this entire episode. I found her to be a little irritating and a little. I have the worst cry on TV goes to Perry.
Yeah.
She also, at one point, when she goes back into the TARDIS at that same scene, so she's appeared, the cop's got a gun.
Yes.
And she completely ignores him.
I thought she thought the gun was... I thought she was like, oh, I hid the ammo, so the gun's empty. That's what I thought.
Maybe, but she doesn't even acknowledge he's there.
Him, yeah.
And then I was like, well, does she not see him? I actually was like, does she not see him? Or is she phased in some weird time? Nope, because later she talks to him.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, God. Yeah, I had thought maybe she was a ghost. Nope.
No. So what did you think of the...
I hate this episode.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm just thinking because it's like the whole reason why the Doctor is fun to be around and what makes him someone to aspire to is that he's full of compassion. He's always helping people.
Even when he's seemingly not, you know that it's there. Even with the first Doctor or any of the Doctors, really, a lot of them do this.
I can't talk too much about Hartnell because we've only seen a couple of episodes, but everyone after him that we've seen, that's the thing that makes him a hero.
Yes.
And when we find out the Doctor has no compassion, it's in an area where you think the Doctor's normal, like he's not having one of his things, and they have that whole thing about compassion. And it doesn't make sense for who this guy is supposed to be. Right?
Well, I agree. It's not just that it doesn't make sense for who he's supposed to be. It's like it's not helping us figure out who he's supposed to be. I can't tell yet what he's supposed to be doing. Like,
what?
Where are they going with it?
I don't know where they're going with it. But why is there a scene of a guy being tortured and killed for stealing vegetables? That doesn't have any payoff. Really?
No. Well, it just makes the villain a bad guy.
Bad, but he tortures people the entire like. I thought there was going to be a payoff to vegetables or something with
vegetables,
because they talk about it smelling like vegetables, like the slug leaves a trail that instantly hardens worse than cement. But they say it smells like rotting vegetables or something. But it just felt weird to have these subjugated people under his tyranny. And then they're all starving, but we don't ever see those people, and the people are never liberated. I mean, or anything.
Well, Yeah, not
I
well. I
maybe
mean, I guess the
space
end.
cop's gonna run.
Space
the
cop's gonna
planet
help.
The planet's made of bird people.
Yeah.
Why is the Time Lord ruling the planet? Shouldn't it be
That-
ruled by bird-headed people?
Do not know.
It's kind of a little weird.
It is a little weird.
It's like English imperialism just sort of seeping into the
Just
threads
colonize
here.
the
Yeah,
planet. Sounds good.
It was hard to figure out. Okay, well, who is this society? The slug guy is part of their mythos.
Right.
You know, for years ago that these slugs arose, and what did the sun god brought the sun and that dried out the
Exactly. Yeah.
I don't know.
Something.
I guess it is.
And it's like, oh, okay, so it was a real thing, and they're back, and
I like when they do arrive at what is it? Jakarutu? No,
Jakanda.
that's Dune. Wherever they arrive.
Jakanda.
The doctor's like, look at this devastation. And Perry's like, oh, did gastropods do this? And doctor's like, what else? I want to be like, oh, I don't know. Anything. It could be
Anything.
like,
Literally anything. Why would that be the first thing you go to? Well, they see the slime trail on the ground. There's one slime trail going across the ground, and yet all the trees are eaten. Everything's
so
devastated.
stupid.
There'd just be slime everywhere. But that wasn't.
And when the old guy becomes a slave, it was very funny. When he
Old guy becomes a slave.
Yeah, when the other Time Lord, when he gets his...
Yes.
And there's that bit where he's opening his mouth, and the other guy's talking through it, and it's
so
just,
bad.
It's so terrible, but it was
Oh,
funny.
yeah, no. I said, Asmael was unable to lip sync for his life. Shout out to all the RuPaul fans out there.
I know
he was terrible.
Yeah, I've been beating up on Colin Baker, but I will say...
As well you
I
should.
did really like that. There's one scene when they just run with his pathetic or like his self-centeredness, and he's saying like, I don't even have fashion sense, and he like looks at his coat, or I can't even dress myself or something, and he's like, self-pity is all I have left. I was like, well, I could that's something I could get behind.
We
I could
totally
I could relate to
sympathize
that.
with you.
I was like,
yeah.
And maybe if they go that way far enough, maybe it'll work. I mean, again, I was sort of saying before, I do respect that they're doing something this bold, which is making a character so unlikable and sticking with it. And I don't think it's working, and I wish they didn't do it.
Yeah.
But I do have a lot of respect that they're definitely not playing it safe.
They tried.
They're trying something new, but we'll see where it goes.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we could talk about the plot somewhere, but it really didn't do a whole lot.
It doesn't really matter. So the plan,
it wasn't really great.
The plan that we said is they need the smartest mathematicians in the world.
Yeah.
Since Adric is already dead, they're forced to take two twins, kidnap them. Twins are weird, hate their mom for some reason. We never see her, so who cares?
It's because of the bowl cuts. She gave them bowl cuts.
There's some pretty cool haircuts they got, though. Say what you will. Those are some nice haircuts. So they're going to do wonder math with their light bright systems.
Yep.
And they are going to they're going to do the calculations about where to move these planets.
And
I don't know how they're actually being moved.
The calculations, they make reference at some point to the calculations, if they actually did them, ran them, made them real, that it would provide a massive amount of power. I don't know what that means. I don't like, oh, just by reading them, there's powers generated. It's like magic. I don't understand. But whatever. They say something along the lines of it was going to generate power, but whatever.
Yeah,
so they're going to do the calculations because math is magic, and it's going to move these planets. Okay.
Yeah, but the math was to sort of stabilize the system, right? Because they're twins and they're balanced. They're great at stabilizing sort of complex systems.
Sure.
The Time Lord, his piece is he's going to be able to phase these planets one day apart.
Yes,
and originally it was like, the planets are going to be rotating around the one planet, and they're going to be equal distance one day apart. But it's not that.
No.
So in any case,
they're just taking the place of the planet in one day, and then
How are they moving the planets though?
Who cares?
And then,
who cares?
Then
Honestly,
the doctor
I don't.
just throws out. He's like, "Hey, did you guys think of the fact that these planets are smaller? So if you put them in the same orbit as the other one, they're going to get pulled to the sun. It's going to break the inertia, all that stuff, and it's going to crash into the sun and explode." Which was the bad guy's plan the entire time.
The entire time, right? Because he has these eggs that are super tough that they can't cut through because they need a heat to melt them, and the heat of the sun will explode them into the galaxy and spread the seed everywhere and blast slugs. This is dumb, but so and we shouldn't spend any time on this plot because it is absolutely horrible. But these two smaller planets are going to go into an orbit around the sun.
Why two planets, too?
Okay, don't know. But one at a time. right? They're not both going to be there. It's going to be they're all out of phase, and then these two planets will be. He said the larder for our planet. Like they're going to use them to like grow crops and whatever. Okay, great, fine. But there's smaller planets in an orbit of where a larger planet was. They wouldn't crash into the sun. They would actually not have enough mass, and they go spinning off out into the galaxy instead of getting crashed in?
Yeah, probably.
It seems like if it was a more massive planet, then that would fall into the sun. But the two smaller planets, I don't think that. I just feel like it would go spinning. It would go spinning out. It would go in a straight line and go right off. By the way, guys, in the 3 weeks between the last recording and this one, we've gone to mail order class, and I'm an astrophysicist.
Okay.
There's all the correspondence.
If there's physics experts, please write.
Because this is the most important thing about this story is whether or not this gravity equation makes sense. One of our listeners is Neil deGrasse Tyson, and I expect him to weigh in on this. Actually, guys. So, okay.
Well,
so that's whatever. That's unimportant.
The plan is flawed. The Doctor points it out.
Yeah.
Even the other Time Lord who wants to save his people, and I guess his people are the bird people.
He considers them his people.
Yeah,
I think in an ownership sense.
Do whatever. But because the Doctor and him got blackout drunk, and he had to revive him by putting him in a fountain, which seems like an odd best memory at your death to be like, my favorite memory is when I was throwing up blacked out in a fountain. But that's what he's got left. What a sad life that he's had.
Yep.
You know, they still have a tightness, even though the guy pretty much abandoned him, and he's doing.
Well, he said the Doctor said that he was his best teacher. So yeah, I guess I can see why the Doctor would have some fondness for him, but I don't see why Asmael would be like, "You're the guy that dunked me in a fountain because I got too drunk." Like, but whatever.
Yeah, it's fine. And then we have the bird-headed people, and that society they have a new leader, so this slug man took over control. Loyalties have now gone to the slug guy, except for one bird-headed guy. Right?
One bird-headed guy.
Or Birdman.
Was
who was
loyal
then
to
used
Asmael.
as a listening device, and his brain is
and then killed anyway.
R.I.P. And then what do? They confront when the Doctor realizes the plan. They
confront Slug Monster. He goads him into taking over Asmael. Yeah. When his defenses are down, he throws the thing at him, acid at him,
and the shield goes up, which should be a red flag to the guy. He may throw something at me again, but apparently not, because he
was too distracted.
Lets his defenses down to take over the old guy for the purpose of only showing the Doctor he can do it.
Right.
And then he has to then use all the energy to take over the Doctor instead of just going right for the Doctor.
Yeah. It was not a good plan.
Stupid. And then it's over, right?
And then it's over.
The end was kind of funny because so you have this weird the slug monster melts. The guy who I think maybe kills himself by regenerating without any lives left. The spirit goes out of him. Then all of the bird-headed guys that were taken over, they all do this very dramatic screaming where they're like, "Oh!" They're like, "What's happening?" Yeah. So there's that scene. And I loved at the end when they're in the TARDIS, or they go in the TARDIS, and there's all these bird-headed people in the TARDIS. It's like shining a light and all these
why were... They were just hanging out there for a long time. They were there for a really long time.
They all leave, but the last guy, did you see, like, he walks up and, like, almost like he's going to say something, he gives up. He's like, nah. If you watch that scene again, you watch it. He's like, walks up to Perry and Space Cop, and he, like, raises his hand like he's going to say something, and he just gives up and he leaves.
Womp womp.
Yeah, and then the twins want to stay, but apparently they can't, because Perry's like, nah, you can't stay.
Nah, bedtime.
It's fine. Go back to bed. Go back to your mother you don't love.
I don't.
And that's it. And the Doctor says, "I'm the Doctor, whether you like it or not."
And we
total
don't.
Threat to the audience.
It's a challenge.
This is not a good start. This is not a good Perry story for me too. For being so new to her, but we'll see. I mean, I didn't mind her. We've seen her in 2 now, right?
Yes, we've seen.
Caves wasn't her first, so we've seen the previous one and then Caves. So. Maybe it'll turn around.
Well, they did the same thing again. What they've done with Perry previously, like in Caves, actually. the Maester, the slug monster, kept Perry alive. He captures her. She was with Space Cop. They knock out Space Cop. He's on the ground. They take Perry because damsel in distress always. And instead of killing her, the Maester keeps her alive because he finds her pleasing, very pleasing. Like, why? Why do they keep doing that with it? Do they do that with all the women?
No.
But like this really creepy. Like
yeah, the bird guy's like, just kill her, and then he's like, nah, she's fine.
She's pretty. Which
weird.
Doesn't make any sense because why would your aesthetic values be the same when?
No, he should be into slugs.
He should totally be into slugs.
Like, just reading like Trax magazine, like something like dirty sounding. That he's got like piles of tracks.
Tracks and slime.
So
there's a lot of gunplay in this story too.
Perry has a gun at the end too.
Yeah,
like everybody's got a gun. There's extra guns around.
I mean, they're like ray guns or something. Not really even that. They're just kind of
so stupid.
They actually look really horrible. The gun design itself and then the way they fired just looked cheap.
Yeah, the design on this, from the interiors of the rooms to the guns to the outfits,
all the props, all the production,
like everything was just off. So I don't know.
I'm conflicted though about the look of the bird people and the look of the slug.
I thought the bird people were fine. I would have liked. I didn't mind them. I thought that was an interesting.
The horns were a little weird, but like it seemed like competently done. Like I think they could have, the way that it was like the prosthetic on the nose looked kind of whatever. It didn't look all that great, but yeah, I think overall it was an interesting idea. I think it was like competently executed. The slug design, I really didn't like that at all. I thought it was an owl at first. It was an owl with antenna.
I wasn't sure what it was until I got a little bit farther into the story.
Well, then you see the tracks.
Do we see the other slugs? There's only one slug. There's multiple slugs, right? Because the guy
slugs go by. Yeah, but that wasn't Maester that went by.
Up close, right? We just see like a hulking.
We see that one go by, and then we see Maester, but we don't really see any other slugs.
The other ones. You know really how many there are. It's just a lot of eggs.
Just a lot of eggs. I guess he's making all the eggs.
I guess he's laying eggs.
He's and fertilized. How does slug biology? So in addition to being an astrophysicist, I'm also a biologist. Yeah, I don't understand. I don't know.
Weird.
I don't think they know. No one knows. They just kind of wrote it.
Yeah, so
and didn't bother.
So not a good.
So you said at the outset, you're like, you were prepared for this to be the worst story you've ever seen because it was, repeatedly rated the worst story by Doctor Who fans and reader polls. And then you said, well, it really wasn't as bad as you thought it was going to be. Now that we've talked through it, what do you think?
No, I think it's still terrible. No, I don't mean that.
You think there are worse ones that you've seen? It's hard to say because I can't keep them all in my head.
This was probably the worst one I've seen. But what I mean is, I was just expecting it to be completely terrible. But it's almost competent. It's not almost. It's like
I don't really.
That's
think
the wrong way of putting it. I was expecting it to be a bigger train wreck than it was. It just felt like it was bad, definitely. And I'm trying to think like off the top of my head, and there's been some that I didn't like, and I just can't think of any of them. But it wasn't like it wasn't that far off from some other episodes that are not that good.
I think it benefited from the fact that it was, after 21 seasons of doing this, after this producer having done so many seasons, probably the same. It was like an autopilot episode. It's like, we just turned in a script and whatever, and everyone that does it is competent at their job, so it was fine. It wasn't it could never be a train wreck.
Like I think it was directed better, and then maybe. I don't love Colin Baker's acting.
Horrible.
Like,
no,
I feel like if
that's the direction though. Isn't that direction? I mean,
yeah,
he can have his own
maybe.
choices, but you rely on a director to help you. And what we now call a showrunner. I don't know how much the producer in this really is kind of that showrunner, who has the grander vision for how overall stories are going to play together. But those people should be working in consultation with the actor to figure out what are the choices that make the most sense. Yeah. And it just seems like they just let him go and didn't really have any plan
I think there's just too many things going on with him. I feel like, okay, if you're going to have him unstable, dangerous, going in and out of whatever, don't also have him smug. Or
smug.
If you're going to have him smug, then don't have
just
all that other stuff. And he's smug because he gets things done or whatever.
Right.
It's like they're having both of those, having someone that's
all over
end
the
up with
board.
the president of the United States. If you have someone that incompetent and that sort of mentally all over the place, but is also
And
the giant
self-aggrandizing,
ego, then
while at the same time think that they're under threat by everyone. Wow, it does really feel familiar.
it's kind of a political statement, I guess. But yeah, I'm still hoping that maybe it's gonna get better.
Oh boy,
right?
better.
It's got to get.
We got a whole year of this.
It's gonna get.
I mean,
better.
that's pretty much all I have to say about this story.
Yeah, I think we covered everything. I don't think there's anything that I didn't have anything in my notes that we didn't cover. Did we get any feedback from people of what they thought?
Yeah, so I put it on Twitter that we were reviewing this one just to see if you guys wanted to give us any of your feedback. We got a few people replying to us. Bernard D says, even I can't polish this one. So people who are super fans of the show and know it inside and out just know how bad this is and can't even justify trying to make an argument for it. David says, oh dear Lord, no, with many, many O's, and I feel that every O just right in my soul. Phil B says, it's shit. Most, if not all, of Colin Baker's tenure was horrendous, so we got that to look forward to.
What's going on, man?
And our friend Chuck says, there's some interesting twin acting.
I would agree with that.
Not horrible exactly, but interesting. I guess that's fine. What's the deal with the other Time Lord having a name? They have names. I think that's why that was in my head, because I read that one, but I guess you're right.
Brain of Morbius. Morbius was a Time Lord.
Yeah, okay.
Rassilon. They have names. Come on,
yeah,
Dan
Chuck.
and Chuck.
I'm sorry. I jumped on the Chuck train. No, Chuck, that was still a good point. It also says, doing math stuff is a great example of bad future tech. You called your light bright. That's pretty good. He says, as for Baker, reminds me immediately of why I didn't like Capaldi. Similarly, unbelievably unappealing in the role. That comment might get some hate tweets, but whatever. I've stated my feelings about Capaldi. I do see that sort of idea of like, oh, he's unlikable, but with Capaldi, there's a lot more thought going into it, and they puncture it and they use it as a counterpoint, and it actually serves a purpose where we're not seeing that in this story, and hopefully it will actually, the smugness and self-aggrandizing will actually be put to a better use, where you can see like, oh, he actually has some redeeming qualities, and this is just a thing about him that is actually kind of sly and ironic that he is that way. I don't know.
No,
we'll see.
I think
hopefully.
that Capaldi is taking that approach but doing it right.
I as much as I had issues with
the Time Lord that you like, but at least, like you're saying, that's it's well designed.
And we've seen all of Capaldi's run. So I ended up liking Capaldi a lot more towards the end. I didn't like him. He was one of the doctors I liked the least at the outset, but then
I like the
guitar
like him much
playing
more. The least. I was never a big fan of the guitar playing or the sunglasses.
No, the sunglasses were just so silly.
And then
we did get an iTunes review.
Oh, we did. Yes. Thank you.
From Australia.
Oh, nice.
Say Daniel77. Oh, that's what Daniel. Huh. Okay, Daniel77 wrote to us in January. It says, I'm a big fan of the classic series as I grew up watching Tom Baker onwards. It cracks me up listening to you guys being newbies and getting your perspectives, but it can be frustrating when you get it totally wrong, and I want to shout out and correct things, but I can't.
You can.
We get it.
You can shout out and correct things. People driving by or walking by will think you're a lunatic, but believe me, I'm sure we get that a lot of people yelling.
He says, keep up the good work, and thanks, Daniel from Melbourne, Australia. Oh, it was Daniel all along. Thank you for that review. That's a 5-star review. We really appreciate that. It's the only thing that actually keeps us going in the world. So that was really nice.
Especially now. Now is the dark time for Dan and I, that we have to do this so you don't have to.
I'm going to hold up hope.
Through 1, 2, 3,
I'm gonna hold up hope that this is gonna get better.
9 more. I think we got 9 more Colin Baker stories to do.
He's a trained actor. These are all professionals. He's going to get better. I have to believe.
And as I said, I do like his Big Finish stuff, so let's hope for the best. If you want to do Make Us Happy, Daniel from Australia, please go to iTunes, subscribe if you haven't already, and leave us a review. Whatever you write, we will read.
Yep. If you want to send us a message, let us know what you think of previous stories that we've done, suggestions for ones that we should do, interesting points, whatever you want to tell us. You can send us an email as well. That's theolddoctorwhoshow@gmail.com. You can also go to our show page at theolddoctorwhoshow.com. We do have our whole schedule there. You can see all of our previous stories. We have funny gift galleries, some bonus stuff there as well. You can comment on any of those stories as well directly on the site, and we will read those on the air as well. We are also on all the social medias. We're on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. If you want to reply to us there, all of that information is also on our website. And if you'd like to, you can follow me on Twitter at DanJNJ. So that's me there. And Eric is at eGrissom. Though, more importantly, you should probably go to Dead Horse Comic.
Yeah, Dead Horse Comic. Thank you, Dan, for plugging me again. Deadhorsecomic.com. Yeah, there's a link at the top, and it'll take you. And just check it out. And if you have a few bucks, I would appreciate it. Or we would all appreciate it.
Who wouldn't? All right.
Yeah. One quick thing. If you want to send us feedback, like Dan was saying, the Attack of the Cybermen story, which is what we are doing next, is going up on March 7th.
Yeah.
So please get us the feedback before that Sunday.
Yep. Send us an email there. I'll also make sure I put out a.
Do you know what date that is by chance? March 7th. March 4th. So by March 3rd, send any emails or tweets or whatever, and it will be read at the show. If you send it after that, we always record on a Sunday.
Yeah.
So it would have to be on the next episode.
All right. Anything else?
No,
I think we did it.
We're done.
Hopefully we've hit the low point of all of Doctor Who. I have a feeling that might not be true.
No, I think we've
gotten
because
through
as
this
we said, everybody hates this episode.
It's true.
Story. Everybody.
It's
so
true.
It has to
It's
get
true.
better. It
has to. Ugh.
And I do hear some positive things about Trial of the Time Lord, and that's sort of
that's great.
ongoing
That's
thing.
all the way towards the end. That's the last one.
It's a ways off.
Oh boy.
And I believe our next story was recommended by a listener, Attack of the Cybermen, who had said it's not very good, but I think it's incredibly violent or something. Or
right.
It ties into a story we had done before.
Okay.
But we'll get there.
Why do we listen?
Yeah,
why do we listen?
All right. Well, if you also see a story we're not doing and you want us to do, write us.
Yep, we're gonna go back through the loop again and pick up some older stories we didn't have access to before. So let us know. You can put that on our show page or send us a message.
Right, I think this
anyway, that's it. Talk to you
complete.
guys again in 3 weeks.
A double pleasure's waiting
Thank
for
you.
you.
Bye.
A double pleasure from Double Mint Gum. A double great feeling, making you realize double is the one for you. Double fresh, double smooth, double delicious to chew. A double pleasure